Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we are once again going to be talking about that extreme winter storm. We're going to be seeing severe weather, snowfall, and an ice storm with this, so there is multiple extremes going on. Now, before I get started with this video, though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. I'd also highly recommend that you check out our very exciting Patreon page where we're going to be talking about that second upcoming snowstorm that looks very major at this point, potentially even more major than this one actually, so you can check that out in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Now for today's comment of the day, I actually want to ask you guys about that storm in particular. Do you think it's going to end up happening, and if so, where is it going to impact? Let me know in the comments down below and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get into this video. And first things first, we're taking a look at that European model once again, and as you can see, we're taking a look at that little bit of first initial snowfall that goes on. It's kind of a separate system, but I've been counting it as the same. It is associated there. We see this is at about 3 a.m. Tomorrow from the time I'm making this video, so at about Sunday, 3 a.m. time frame, and as you can see, there is some light to moderate snowfall going on for the upper Midwest. Now let's just move on towards about 11 a.m. there on Monday on January 25th there, and as you can see, there is some moderate to heavy snowfall going on for Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri there. Also some ice on the southern extent. You can see there within that pink band, that's where we're going to be seeing some freezing rain where that ice storm is beginning to take hold. We also see quite a bit of heavy rainfall going on to the south, likely severe weather there for Oklahoma and Texas as well. So this is going to be major impacts going on already to begin this storm in the morning hours of Monday. Now what we're going to do is move on towards where that snowstorm is going to get even larger, take up more regions, and get even heavier in just a moment. Alright, now here we are taking a look at about 11 p.m. there on Monday, January 25th, and as you can see, we have moderate to heavy snowfall going on for Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and even down there for Virginia, Maryland, DC, the Delmarva as well, where we see a little bit of a more eastern band going on, and then in between those two we actually see a lot of freezing rain still going on for those pink regions. Now the Storm Prediction Center doesn't have any severe weather by this point for the southeast like I've indicated could be possible. I'm still sticking with the fact that that could be possible. I would certainly not be surprised to see a marginal risk pop up here for this time frame, Monday into Tuesday there, for portions of the Gulf states and the southeast as well, with the amount of cape, with the amount of shear, and then also having those storms in the area. It's hard for me to imagine not seeing at least a very, very slim chance of severe weather. And then by the time we reach about 11 a.m. there on Tuesday, you can see that storm is pretty much coming to an end. Now let's watch that second storm come through, and this one actually starts it out for the Ohio Valley, which is very interesting. So Indiana, Missouri, Illinois as well. And then eventually this reaches the Mid-Atlantic as a much weaker storm than what the other models are suggesting. The GFS and the Canadian model have a very major snowstorm for this second one for portions of the Mid-Atlantic. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. Speaking of the GFS, we're about to move on and take a look at what the GFS has to say for both of these upcoming snowstorms. Now, first things first, here is our first storm, obviously, and as you can see, this is by about 11 p.m. there on Monday, so we're just starting out pretty late with this one. You can see that heavy snowfall starting out for Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, kind of going into Illinois, but the thing is, we're kind of trending a little bit warmer for those more eastern areas, and the thing is, that's going to allow for that freezing rain to just kind of float up a little bit further north than originally anticipated. It's going to be a wintry mess for those regions. We'll see it on my total snowfall map that these areas have a little bit less snowfall anticipated because of those mixing issues. Also notice there is some freezing rain going on for Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland as well. Pretty heavy actually, so we could start to see that ice begin to stick and see a quite significant ice storm for those regions actually, according to our GFS model. Now as we move on towards about 3 p.m. or so here on Tuesday, January 26th, you can see that storm is much further north on the eastern extent of it. We see southern Michigan getting in on some of this, the upstate regions of New York and western New York, Finger Lakes regions as well. Pretty much north of Pennsylvania. This model seems to be a bit further north than the rest of them. And then by the time we reach maybe about 3 a.m. here on Wednesday, January 27th, you can see this is coming to an end actually. We do see some light to moderate snowfall going on though. Now let's take a look at that very major snowstorm that follows this one. This is at about 3 a.m. on Thursday. And as you can see, it starts out as rain for North Carolina and Virginia, the areas where originally these models were saying snowfall. So we can see these major shifts going on, which is very typical this far out. That's why we haven't made a video about that storm yet, and also because we have a winter storm happening before it, but that's besides the point. By the time we reach about 11 a.m. there on Thursday, January 28th, you could tell this is a very major winter storm according to this model. Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland into the Delmarva, seeing extremely heavy snowfall, possibly blizzard conditions. It's hard to say what the wind would be like in this scenario, but honestly, we have a 985 millibar low pressure center at this point, which is very strong. And then by the time we reach the next frame, you can see it actually extends further towards the coast as we reach those nighttime hours. And it's a 979 millibar low pressure center by this point. So the GFS says major snowstorm, potentially the biggest snowstorm of the year so far, if this was to play out this way. So if you want to see more about this storm, check out the Patreon page. It's cheaper than the price of a coffee, an absolute steal at this point, and we're making very detailed posts almost daily over there, so I highly recommend it. Now what we're going to do is move on, and we're going to move on and take a look at the Canadian model real quick, and then we're going to start talking about the impacts, ice storm, total snowfall, the severe weather threat as well. We're going to be talking about all of that in just a moment. So here's that Canadian model, and as you can see, we're starting things out at about 1 p.m. there on Monday, and as you can see, it's a little bit further south than the rest of the models, which is very interesting. We still see that freezing rain. That seems to be a trend with all of these models, that it's becoming evident we will have some sort of an ice storm at least. Some heavier snow going on for Nebraska, Kansas as well. By the time we reach about 7 a.m. there on Tuesday, you can see that we do see that snowfall going on pretty much from Nebraska and Kansas all the way through Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, even in through New Jersey. So this storm is a bit further south with that first storm, like I said. And we do see that significant ice going on for the Mid-Atlantic on this model as well. And then by the time we reach about maybe 12 p.m. there on Tuesday, you can still see that snowfall going on for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and the freezing rain to the south, Northern Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and even DC and Delaware there as well. And then with the second storm, it looks strikingly similar to the GFS model. So let's take this to about 12 p.m. there on Thursday, and as you can see, moderate to heavy snowfall going on for Virginia, Maryland, DC, Delaware, New Jersey. This would be an extremely major snowstorm. I think this is just what we need right now. A lot of people are hoping for a snowstorm in these regions as well. And then as you can see, as this one finishes out, the coast reaches, it turns over to snow at about, this is maybe about, I would say actually about 3 p.m. there on Thursday. So this is kind of the trend with the models. The cold does move in eventually, and all the areas switch over to snowfall. This does include my location. I know a lot of people in Hampton Roads and Eastern Virginia in general watch my channel. So that's why I want to kind of specify that it does have our area switching over to snow at a certain point. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at a few things. We're going to take a look at the severe weather threat according to the Storm Prediction Center. We're going to take a look at the freezing rain total. And then we're going to start talking about the modeled snowfall guidance according to the European model, the GFS model, and the Canadian model. And then we're going to get into my official snowfall forecast, and then finally my confidence tab at the very end of this video. So stay tuned for all of those things. All right, now here's that severe weather threat, and as you can see, we have a slight risk for severe weather at this point. Do I think this is a little small and a little low? Yeah, I think it could expand into more regions. I think I would make that slight risk bigger, considering the amount of shear and cape, but we will have to wait and see. I certainly like the area that they're pinning down, though. Dallas-Fort Worth, basically take that northeastward into Oklahoma. I think that's the biggest threat for severe weather at this point. That's where the strongest of the storms will be, where that meets with that high amount of cape, and also there's going to be shear pretty much everywhere. So I think the severe weather threat is quite considerable at this point. Let's take a look at that freezing rain total. And as you can see, if you're anywhere in the brighter pinks, you're under a 1/4 inch of ice, which is basically just a small amount, if anything. And then in those more darker pinks, that's where we're at about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and even 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. The maximum on screen here is 0.88, so just over 3/4 inch there. So that's quite a bit of freezing rain. That's enough to cause a lot of impacts at this point. So we're going to be watching that very closely, like I said. Here's the total snowfall guidance according to the European model. If you're anywhere in the grays, you're expecting a dusting, if anything. If you're in those lighter blues, you're at about 2 to 6 inches of snow. If you're in the purple shades, you're at about 6 to 10. In the pinks, we're at about 10 to 20. And then we can see those pastel colors. So there's a variety of pastel colors there. It kind of crosses from pink to almost a grayish, kind of like teal to kind of a grayish color. It's hard to explain, but you can see it for eastern Nebraska and western Iowa there. That's where this model is showing 20 inches plus, a bullseye there. So we're going to be watching that closely. Here's the eastern extent of it. So you can see that eastern edge looks a lot weaker than originally anticipated. The European model has been trending at this for quite a while. So that's a good job done by the European model, it appears. Let's take a look at the GFS model, and it's just a bit further north. We mentioned that is the furthest north model at this point. Also, as you can see, upstate New York, we get a lot of lake effect enhanced snowfall with those pinks showing up. So 10 inches plus for the Finger Lakes regions of New York, carrying that eastward, almost towards the Catskills as well. Then as we take a look at that Canadian model, it's kind of in between. It keeps those lighter amounts in the eastern United States, just like the European model, and it keeps those heavier regions out west in very similar regions. All right, now here's my official snowfall forecast, and as you can see, we have a dusting to 3 inches of snow expected throughout all of these white regions. Now for the lighter blues, we expect 3 to 6 inches of snow for all of these regions. Then in these darker blues, we have 2 of these regions. We have 6 to 10 inches of snow expected. So Nebraska down through Kansas, and then we take that eastward through northern Missouri, southern Iowa, and that does cross over into Illinois a bit as well. And then we see that lake effect enhanced band that carries through portions of eastern Ohio straight through into western and central Pennsylvania there. That's where I think we will get 6 to 10 inches of snow. And then we even have this kind of magenta shade. That's where we're expecting 10 to 15 inches of snow for Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and through Illinois. All right, now for our confidence tab, I'm remaining at a 4 with this one, honestly, guys. We see a little bit of a difference in the location with the models. My confidence is not reached a 5 yet, honestly. The models are just disagreeing a little bit too much for my comfort level at this point. So we're remaining at a 4, which is just above 50% confidence. Now, for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, which state do you think will see the most snowfall? And Donna Williams said, I'm going with Iowa. Hit us with your best shot. And I really do think southern Iowa is probably the bullseye at this point for this storm. If not, possibly northern Missouri or potentially even Kansas or Nebraska. But somewhere out there is where I have the bullseye hitting. Anyway, for today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons. Sebastian Tao, John Benbenick, James Wade, Dovie Nagel, Alan Belemo, Adam S., Larry LePan, Donna Carnes, Cameron Marshall, and Aidan Mattis, alongside our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Alan Sherry, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Codalesa, Michael Buell, Terry Curtis, Cat Bite, Charles Stinnett, Kellen Manhart, It's Jay, Cindy Klein, Alicia Davis, Mark J., Luke Falago, Gary's, and John Quilisi. If you would like to be on this Patreon end screen, you can do so by joining our very awesome Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media. I will see you guys in the next video.